Hello my fellow Welt lovers. Alright, quick heads up before we dive headfirst into the chaos. Today's video is gonna be stacked. We're talking the brand new Pom-Pom skin leak that's already getting me excited, a full breakdown of Hsr 3.6's absolutely busted kid, and of course, Evernight, which, according to one of the leaker uncles, is basically a must-play with Castorice. According to him, a bunch of people have been asking how we're supposed to play Evernight without Castorice. And honestly, I kinda get it. He even said he didn't think Hoyoverse would ever let us run Evernight solo without her. But plot twist, according to him, Hoyoverse actually planned ahead and is tossing us a Castorice rerun in version 3.6. So before you even warm up your stellar jades, you might want to start calculating just how broke you're about to be. Topping up in Genshin or Star Rail can get expensive, and let's be honest, we've all seen those in-game prices and wished they were just a bit lower. Well, that's exactly what LDShop is here for. This is LDShop, the official top-up platform developed by the LD Player Emulator Group. It lets you top up your favorite games like Genshin Impact and Star Rail at huge discounts, up to 23% off or more. And yeah, it's super easy to use. All you need is your server and UID, and your top-up will show up in-game within just a few minutes. It's safe, reliable, and used by thousands of players. You can even compare prices, for example, something like the Supply Pass or a 6480 Stellar Jade Bundle. It's way cheaper here than in-game. If you register using my link, you'll get a 15% off coupon and an extra 5% off coupon, which can save you up to $50 on your first top-ups. Plus, LDShop gives you the same first top-up bonus you get in-game, so you're not missing out on anything. And if you're planning to spend more, here's a bonus. If you spend over $80, you'll unlock VIP status, which gives you a free supply pass and more perks. So if you're looking to save while still getting everything you normally would in-game, just use the link in the description and get Hizzlins while saving more. But let's get to the real star of this data dump, Heng PT. Oh boy. If you thought his Imbibitor Luniform was already busted, this version is like Hoyoverse looked at shield characters and said, okay, but what if we made them terrifying? His basic attack? Pretty standard, 100% physical DMG to one enemy. Yawn, except it's just the opening move. The skill is where things start spiraling. This man literally chooses a bond mate and then hands out shields to the entire team. And I'm not talking baby shields, 30% of his ATK plus a flat 400 for 3 turns. And yes, they can stack. The shield cap is 300% of the skill's value, which means if you try to break through, you better pack a lunch because it's gonna take a while. And here's where it gets busted. His ultimate not only dishes out a huge AoE slap, 300% of his ATK physical DMG to all enemies, but also hands out the same beefy shields again. And it wakes up Soul Dragon. And when Soul Dragon's enhanced, every time it moves, it smacks all enemies with the bondmate's DMG type for 80% of their ATK. It's like turning your DPS into a screen-wide turret without even giving them permission. Imagine pairing this with someone like Jinglu or Blade. Enemies won't even have the chance to regret their life choices. They'll just cease to exist. His talent? Oh, you thought we were done? No. Soul Dragon starts with a speed stat of 165, which is already absurd. Every time it moves, it cleanses your whole team of 1 debuff and hands out more shields. And yes, those stack too. This is what happens when Hoyoverse decides to make a unit that's both healer and bouncer. He's kicking enemies out of the fight while guarding the door. And just because he's extra, his technique makes Bondmate active even before the fight starts, throws enemies into a daze for 10 seconds so they can't touch you, and auto-casts his skill on the Bondmate at the start of battle for free. That's right, free. 0 skill points. Just instant comfort. Imagine speedrunning Memory of Chaos with this level of pre-battle insurance. Now the bonus abilities are basically Hoyoverse's way of saying, oh, you thought you understood how broken he was? Hold my tea. Bonus 1. Every time Bondmate attacks, he gains energy and pushes Soul Dragon forward. Bonus 2. He starts the fight with a 40% action advance, so faster turn cycling right off the bat. Bonus 3. When he uses a skill, Bondmate gets an ATK boost equal to 15% of his ATK. He's basically your DPS's sugar daddy at this point. Then there are his Eidolons. And if you weren't already sweating about your Jade count, prepare yourself. E1 makes his ultimate refund a skill point for the team and gives Bondmate all-type residential PN, meaning their damage slices right through defenses. E2 gives more Soul Dragon turns, instant turn advances, and extra Bondmate type damage. E4 is straight def ignore on bondmate damage. And E6, oh man, E6 is just evil. All enemies take 20% more DMG when a bondmate is on the field, and his ultimate makes bondmate nuke everything for 330% of their ATK in one hit. That's not support anymore, that's co-DPS territory. And yes, I can already hear the theory crafters frothing at the mouth about his synergy potential. You could literally build comps where your main DPS is just chilling while Hsr 3.6 turbocharges them into a one-person apocalypse. Imagine Phanon as bondmate getting spoon-fed damage boosts like it's breakfast. Disgusting. Beautiful. I love it. And looping back to Evernight, this is why the Castorice rerun makes so much sense. Without her, certain comps feel like they'd crumble in Evernight's mechanics. With her rerun timed right before, plus Hsr 3.6 dropping with absurd shield sustain, they're giving players both the safe pick and the offense disguised as defense pick. It's a meta play from Hoyoverse that's low-key genius and high-key dangerous for our wallets. Because you know they're counting on people pulling both. And honestly, I'm dangerously close to doing exactly that. So first things first, Evernight is technically a Path of Remembrance unit, but she doesn't just sit there throwing out freezes or delaying enemies like a Remembrance 101 textbook character. No, her entire gameplay identity revolves around this unique mechanic built around her memo sprite companion, Eve. Think of Eve as your semi-autonomous partner in crime who doesn't just stand around looking cute. She actively jumps into battle, hits enemies, and becomes the core of Evernight's gameplay loop. The moment the fight starts, Eve's already there on the field, ready to go. Your whole goal is to manage a resource called Memorialia, which builds up whenever Eve takes damage or when Evernight herself uses certain abilities. Hit 16 stacks of Memorialia, and you can tell Eve to go full kamikaze with a massive sacrificial attack. This burns through all of Eve's HP and your Memorialia stacks, but gives Evernight a big energy refund and, here's the fun part, an extra turn. You can already see where this is going, right? Because that extra turn is the perfect moment to slam her ultimate, instantly resummon Eve, and keep the whole loop spinning like a hyper-optimized washing machine. Summon, build, explode, resummon, repeat. If you like consistent, methodical burst cycles, this is your jam. Her talent, with me this night, is the foundation holding the whole thing together. Eve starts with a chunky 1,480 base HP, which scales directly off Evernight's max HP. Whenever specific triggers occur, like Evernight using skills or being in her memory's stance, Eve jumps in for follow-up attacks. And yes, if Eve does get knocked out, she's not gone forever. She just needs 2 turns to get back in action, which is honestly a pretty short downtime considering what she brings. Then we've got her skill, Remembrance, drifting like rain. This one really pops in memory stance, where the follow-up hits harder and can chunk through enemy shields faster, making her a natural fit for teams that love weakness break. She's also packing soft blue drifting in Merc, which slaps enemies and strips buffs, an absolute lifesaver against those annoying bosses who think it's cute to stack themselves with 14 different advantages before you can even blink. Her ultimate, Wokeful World, Good Night, is where the big fireworks happen. This thing is a massive AoE nuke that makes both Evernight and Eve hit all enemies, and it also applies imprisonment. So yeah, delay city, population, your enemies, while also lowering their speed. On top of that, it turbocharges your Memorialia generation, letting you swing right back into your loop faster than before. The traces are just pouring on more synergy juice. Dark the Night, Still the Moon pumps Eve's damage by 30% after you ultimate Kindle the Morn, Drop the Rain, boosts crit damage for the whole team when everyone's at healthy HP levels. And the final trace? Oh, that's just a massive crit damage steroid for all memo sprites in your party, scaling up from 5% to a mind-blowing 50% if you run a full mono remembrance team. It's like Hoyoverse looked at March and said, yeah, we're making you the remembrance cult leader now. Now here's the real kicker. Evernight scales almost entirely off max HP. So you're pumping her survivability and damage at the same time. That makes gearing her straightforward. You don't have to play the awkward, do I build tanky or do I build DPS? Game. And since she's already sitting on generous crit rate thanks to her traces and possible relic synergies, you're just free to juice her even further. Speaking of relics, the new Hakushin set is practically glued to her kit. 8% baseline crit rate, 24% extra HP for both her and Eve, and extra team-wide damage every time she uses a basic or skill. And her signature light cone? Yeah, it's not even subtle. It's her absolute best in slot. stacking up to 80% more damage for her and Eve while also giving all Memo sprites defense ignore. You couldn't design a more obvious weapon pairing if you tried. But let's address the giant debate swirling in the community. Is she basically just Castorice's new BFF, or can she actually stand on her own? Well, the truth is, Evernight works absurdly well with other Remembrance characters who either have HP loss mechanics or who benefit from her Memo sprite buffs. Castorice is obviously the headline synergy. Evernight's buffs apply to all Memo sprites, so that means Castorice's Dragon hits harder, Hyacinth's follow-ups get juicier, and suddenly everyone in your team is critting like it's a holiday sale. The current dream team floating around Theorycraft circles is Evernight, Castorice, Hyacinth, and the upcoming Cyrene. Until Cyrene drops, people are slotting in RMC or Tribi, but there's already heated argument about which one gets the boot when Cyrene arrives. Could she run outside Mono Remembrance? Theoretically, yes. You could put her alongside HP scaling sustain units or supports like Sunday just to capitalize on her crowd control and loop damage. But the math doesn't lie. Her biggest numbers happen when she's surrounded by her own kind. And this is where some players are starting to get flashbacks to other hyper-specialized characters Hoyoverse has pushed in the past, Kafka being tied to DOT comps, and Axa being made for third, etc. The verdict so far? Evernight leans heavily toward the locked synergy side. She can function elsewhere, but her traces and scaling are so Mono Remembrance focused that you'd be leaving absurd amounts of value on the table. Now, the player base is split right down the middle. If you already own Castorice and Hyacinth, the consensus is pull her. No hesitation. She's basically a must-have that turns an already scary comp into an endgame terror. Her Eidolon one in particular is being called Busted, a giant, sweeping damage boost for the entire team. I've seen people already theory crafting setups where the crit damage stacks hit over 200% and the defense ignore is just erasing health bars. On the flip side, if you don't have Castorice or Hyacinth, the hype drops off hard. She starts to feel like a luxury unit with very limited flexibility. Some people are straight up calling her Castorice slave or Mono Remembrance shill. And yeah, there's a bit of burnout from players tired of seeing new 5 stars get locked into one premium comp. Others are just skipping her entirely, not because she's bad, but because she doesn't slot into their roster without heavy investment in other premium units. And then you've got the crowd that wanted her to be a self-sufficient main DPS. Those players are a little salty, because Evernight is tuned more like a sub-DPS who supercharges summons instead of hogging the spotlight herself. Sure, you could force her into a carry role, but then you're giving up a lot of her built-in synergy bonuses, which is not exactly optimal. Here's where I'm at. If you have the pieces, she's going to be monstrous. Like, why did they let this into the game? Levels of good in her intended comp. If you don't, she's not useless, but she's not going to transform your account the way she will for a fully built Mono Remembrance squad. Either way, this is one of the most interesting reworks we've seen for a standard character in Honkai Star Rail. March 7th went from cute ice archer to whatever this hybrid HP scaling summon buffing memory overlord is, and I'm here for it. But I'm also watching the meta, with one eyebrow raised to see if she ends up being more versatile than people expect, or if she really does live and die by Castor's side. So yeah, Castorice will pop up in the 3.6 banner preview, and Pom-Pom will show up looking like they stepped off a runway. I'm just gonna sip my tea and watch the comments section explode. Because at that point, it won't even be about was the leak real? It'll be, how am I supposed to afford rent after this patch? And Hoyoverse knows exactly what they're doing. We're not just getting a game update, we're getting a meta shakeup. Every time they introduce a character like this, the whole roster gets rearranged in people's minds. Suddenly, those glass cannon DPS units you benched months ago are looking spicy again. Suddenly, every content creator is pumping out top 10 bond mate combos videos at 3 a.m. And me? I'll just be here, grinning, because I told you this was coming. So buckle up, save your jades, and maybe start making peace with the fact that 3.6 is basically going to mug your account. Between Evernight's hype, the Castorice Rerun, Pom-Pom's glow up, and a Dan Heng variant that's basically Shield Daddy Supreme, this patch isn't playing nice. And neither should you.